charged, and they can serve 7 years in prison. During the investigations, they were pressured to drop the complaints, were retaliated against, and food was withheld from them during these interrogations. The release of one of them was delayed for at least 1 day because the officers were harassing them and telling the women that they need to retrieve their complaint. To the survivors, we as a community are saying today that we hear you, that we believe you, that we stand by you, and we thank you for being brave. We're sorry for what you went through. No one should go through this. No one should suffer these abuses. You are loved, you are valued, you are cared for. We stand by you. That's the central message of Refugio and us here today. We see every person as deserving of respect and dignity, no matter their country of origin, the language they speak. We see people as they are, with full humanity and inherent dignity that cannot and should not be erased. This is the core of our mission, to accompany immigrants. That is our message, that we are telling everyone, those who are here for ICE checking, those who are detained, those who are survivors, those who are released.
It's okay.
What happened to the survivors, to the sexual abuse at Stewart, is not an isolated issue. Women have suffered abuses and other atrocities in other detention centers too. As you know, Stewart is the deadliest detention center in the United States. 8 people have died at Stewart since 2007. 4 people died during this pandemic at Stewart Detention Center. People have been subjected of abuse, attack, neglect, isolation, and sexual abuse. These, again, are not isolated events. This is systemic. ICE and CORCIVIC are incapable of protecting people. Systemic problems need systemic solutions. Immigrants should not be subjected to any of these abuses. Detention centers are plagued with all kinds of abuse and mistreatment. Immigrants should be able to continue their process without detention in their communities, with their families. Detention of all kinds, including house arrest, electronic monitoring, are inhumane. There is no other way around. We need to shut ICE down. We need to shut down Stewart. We need to end detention. We owe this to the survivors, to those who endure inhumane treatment, and to those who have died at the hands of these corporations and ICE government. How we do that? Well, we don't do this work alone. You are here today, and we know the way. We have each other, and someone can ask, where do we start? We start here. This is just the beginning. Stand in solidarity with survivors of sexual abuse at Stewart, and stand in solidarity and advocate for those who are detained today. They are leading this work. The women are clear in their demands. They don't want this to happen to anyone. So terminate the contract with the nurse. Terminate the contract with all the ICE officers and everyone who covered it up and accuse the women. Let's end the contract with Stewart County. Let's shut down ICE. We are already doing this. We are making it happen. Thanks for being here. Keep up the good fight. Thank you for making this movement move. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, amiga. Before I introduce our next speaker, I would like to play another excerpt from the women's own voices regarding what they experienced inside the Stewart Detention Center at the hands of a federal government contractor entrusted to care for them. And again, these excerpts are from the Intercept. Antes de presentar a la próxima oradora, voy a tocar parte del testimonio de una de las sobrevivientes que dio al noticiario The Intercept sobre su abuso a las manos de contratistas del gobierno federal.
Pues aquí estamos en la ciudad, en las oficinas de ICE, aquí en la ciudad de Atlanta, las oficinas de ICE centrales, donde aquí ya quieren que paren la cárcel de Stewart, para que ustedes sepan, esa sigue activa y otra vez problemas dentro de la cárcel con las mujeres. Aquí Prensa Atlanta, estamos aquí en las oficinas de ICE, donde hubo esta reunión de prensa. Al mismo tiempo ves gente adentro de las oficinas que están en línea esperando su turno para ver al juez. Mucha gente aquí presente para que vean la magnitud de cuánta gente viene aquí a corte, a ICE, para arreglar sus papeles. Ahorita están transmitiendo a una grabación de las quejas de adentro de la cárcel por otra vez tocar mujeres inapropiadamente.
Next up, I'm going to invite to the podium another advocate within Refugio. She's the advocacy coordinator and her name is Joana Garcia. Próximamente invito como oradora a otra compañera de Refugio. Es la coordinadora de abogacía y su nombre es Joana Garcia.
Buenas tardes. Ah, sí me escuchan. Qué gusto. Se te ven las notas de quien sea. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Giovanna y yo trabajo con el Refugio. El Refugio lleva más de una década abogando por los derechos de los migrantes que están detenidos en Stewart Detention Center. Y hoy tengo el privilegio de estar aquí con ustedes y el honor de poder hablar de la experiencia de las sobrevivientes del acoso sexual. Para mí, llevo muchos años haciendo esto. Ha sido un honor poder trabajar con la justicia, porque tener el valor, después de lo que sucedió, de enfrentar deficiencias judiciales, esto me gusta. So, thank you everybody for coming. I do want to say thank you to our city of Atlanta here today. I'm Mexican born, but Atlanta raised. And I rep my city. It's not about the people that are coming in or out. It's about their humanity. It's about these women who were sexually abused by someone who should have taken care of them.
Yeah.
Could you tell me today, how many of these women have to sacrifice their dignity and their body in the name of court detention, court civic, Stewart Detention Center? ¿Cuántas mujeres tienen que dar su dignidad, su cuerpo, para que haya cambio en Stewart Detention Center? Hoy estamos aquí para decirles, ni una más. Not on my watch. Not on my watch, because there is no black or brown bodies that need to be sacrificed in the name of detention.
Right.
Not today. It's about all of us. This is not a political issue. Esto no es de política. Esto es de la dignidad de las mujeres. So thank you for coming out today. Para las chicas, mis héroes, this is the beginning. Espero que sepan que todos están con ustedes. And so we see you, we hear you, y les creemos. We see them, we believe them. And thank you for that. So thank you guys. Woo!
Next up, we're going to hear from the Party for Socialism and Liberation, from organizer Natalie Villasana. Próximamente vamos a escuchar del Partido para el Socialismo y Liberación de la organizadora Natalie Villasana. Natalie!
Hello, my name is Natalie Villasana. I'm an organizer with Party for Socialism and Liberation and the campaign to shut down Folkston ICE Processing Center. The disgusting sexual assaults and abuses against women at Stewart Detention Center are deplorable. But unfortunately, these incidents are not surprising to those who are familiar with the operations of Immigrant Customs Enforcement in Georgia. We're in Georgia, but ICE is under DHS and Biden's purview. He has the power to stop operations at this detention center, just as he stopped them at Irwin County Detention Center when forced sterilizations were exposed there in 2020. Instead, we shouldn't have to wait for the latest attacks on the bodies of our families, our communities, to justify the closure of these torture chambers. Biden and the ICE field office here in Atlanta has the moral responsibility, everything in their power to shut down Stewart Detention Center. Instead, ICE plans to expand Folkston ICE Processing Center in South Georgia to make it the largest ICE prison in the country, a center where there are already documented cases of abuse and retaliation and punishment of incarcerated people, of detained people for speaking out for their human rights. There's cases of the singling out of black immigrants for assault and solitary confinement. Instead of bringing these prisons to a close, Biden plans to expand them to make Georgia a private prison capital and protect the profits of private prisons like Core Civic and Geo Group, which literally profit from the suffering of human beings. Make no mistake that the treatment of people in these facilities is fundamentally racist and sexist. How else could such abuses be justified to not treat people as human beings? Biden and the Democrats are not using their power to act. So the people have to force their hand, and we have the power to do that. We shouldn't have to. They should be acting already.
Yes.
But it's indispensable in this movement to build an independent movement for immigrant rights. There's a place for everybody in the movement for immigrant rights. This is unacceptable. This treatment of women, of any person, is unacceptable. It's torturous and inhumane. People are facing the most vulnerable situations in their lives, and instead, they're made to face further abuses, further violated. They're seeking safety. escaping poverty that's often brought through U.S. imperialism, through U.S. policy that's carried out in other countries, through war and the destruction of other countries' economies. And instead, what are they met with here? In a country that promises them human rights and liberty and justice. They're met with abuse and rape and sexual assault. This is disgusting, it's unacceptable, and we will not stand for this. No organization here today will stand for this, and we're going to keep fighting until these abuses end and until this disgusting institution is shut down.
Shut it down.
Woo! Shut it down! ICE is driven by the interests of for-profit companies like Core Civic and Geo Group. These companies should not be above the law just because they make up a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Right.
Why do these companies have more power than people, than the majority of people? The majority of people do not support these institutions or these cages or the heightened exploitation of people. Being undocumented is not a reason to not be treated like a human being. This is used as a racist, xenophobic excuse to exploit people, and we must stand together against that. No one should be forced to endure what these women have been through. No person should be put through the suffering of COVID-19. By the way, Stewart County Detention Center is the most deadly detention center in the country. It has the highest number of COVID deaths in the country. It should be shut down already. Why do we have to fight? Why do we have to keep fighting year after year, seeing more and more violence carried out against people, and still the administration does nothing?
Yeah.
But we've seen what it's done. It is not serving any community. It is not helping anyone. It is not making anyone safer. It's exploiting the most vulnerable people. Alright, so, okay, so we have seen how they've actually lied. They've actively lied to. There's been about this brutalization, about this violence. But we are here to expose that, and we will keep exposing that because immigrants are human beings. We must have a say over our own bodies and our rights. And our government should be beholden to us and not the corporations that profit from our suffering. So if people will not, if Biden and the Democratic Party too will not fight for immigrant rights in Georgia, then we will. Working class people will, across all different backgrounds, will work together to fight for immigrant rights in Georgia. We will form an independent mass movement. We will not tolerate this horrible disregard for people's lives. I urge everyone watching and people here today to join an organization and build the fight. I'm here with Party for Socialism and Liberation, and a GLAHR is here as well. Georgia Detention Watch, Contra, amazing groups that are all working. Julio, of course, was organized this, and we all need to join to continue to build this movement. So, thank you. Woo! Thank you so much, man. Gracias, man. I think it's worth bringing up that in the article that broke the story for The Intercept, the most important government agency at the center of all of this did not dignify the women with a comment or a response to their very well-placed allegations of sexual abuse. And that agency is right here, the Atlanta ICE Field Office.
Shame!
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 Shame! ¡Vergüenza! Creo que vale recalcar que la agencia federal más importante al centro de todo este abuso que sobrevivieron las mujeres no dignificó el testimonio de las sobrevivientes siquiera con una respuesta. Y esta agencia...
Me encontramos aquí en las oficinas centrales de ICE, aquí en la ciudad de Atlanta, Georgia, donde hay una reunión de prensa con organizaciones defendiendo los derechos de los inmigrantes. El caso de Stewart, la cárcel que queda al sur de Atlanta, tiene mujeres y una ha sido abusadas, tocadas inapropiadamente. Y se trata de esta reunión para que definitivamente cierren la cárcel de Stewart, un lugar donde no está bueno para las mujeres y no está bueno para cualquier persona parar el abuso sexual. Esta fue la reunión aquí que estamos presentes frente a las oficinas de ICE centrales aquí en Atlanta, Georgia, ciudad de Atlanta. Varias están diciendo, hay gente, como pueden ver, todos los días aquí vienen a corte a defender sus casos. A veces tienen abogados, esa es la cosa, sus derechos civiles.
Y ella es abogada de la comunidad y se llama Elizabeth Zambrana. Bienvenida.
Aquí vamos a ir a unas voces de una abogada.
Buenos días. Good morning, everyone. My comments will be first in English, followed by Spanish. Mis comentarios serán primero en inglés, después seguido por el español. On behalf of the Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights, our hearts are so heavy for these brave survivors. Our organization is comprised of directly impacted community members who have experienced a great deal of harm as a result of our immigration system. We are resolutely committed to getting folks free from detention centers, and we stand vehemently in opposition to those that seek to capitalize and profit off the suffering of our community. We are intimately acquainted with the inherent violence of immigration detention, and we stand in solidarity with these survivors in their request to have their truth heard. We urge you to listen. Don't turn away. Support them. Take action. Let them know that they are not alone. We support these survivors' request to protect others, to prevent further harm at the hands of this individual, and we condemn the pervasive pattern of impunity and the lack of transparency at Stewart. We call for the closure of Stewart Detention Center, and more broadly, for an end to immigrant detention. Our experience has repeatedly shown us that this system cannot be reformed. Immigrant detention harms our communities. It harms asylum seekers. It harms survivors of gender-based violence. These are not just a few bad apples. This is a pattern. This system is working exactly as it is intended to. These women deserve better. Our communities deserve better. Thank you. De parte de la Alianza Latina Pro Derechos Humanos de Georgia, nos duele el corazón por estas sobrevivientes que han demostrado tanto valor. Nuestra organización está compuesta por miembros de la comunidad que han sido directamente impactados y han sufrido muchísimo daño como resultado de nuestro sistema de inmigración. Estamos comprometidos a liberar a las personas de los centros de detención y estamos opuestos a todas las personas que intentan tomar ventaja de nuestras comunidades para enriquecerse a sí mismos. Conocemos muy de cerca la violencia causada por la detención migratoria y estamos juntos en solidaridad con estas sobrevivientes. Las apoyamos en sus demandas que escuchen sus verdades. Les pedimos que las escuchen. Apóyalas con tus acciones.
Ya no más injusticias.
Más injusticia.
No más injusticia con el inmigrante.
Déjenlas saber que no están solas. Apoyamos a estas sobrevivientes en sus demandas a proteger a otras personas y prevenir que ocurra más daño a causa de este individuo. Condenamos el patrón de impunidad y la falta de transparencia en Stewart. Pedimos el cierre del Centro de Detención de Stewart y también pedimos que se elimine el uso de detención migratorio. Nuestra experiencia nos ha demostrado repetidamente que este sistema no se puede reformar. La detención migratoria causa daños a nuestras comunidades, causa daño a solicitantes de asilo, causa daños a sobrevivientes de la violencia de género. Estos no son unos cuantos malos, esto es un patrón.
este sistema está funcionando de forma intencional. Estas mujeres merecían mejor y nuestras comunidades merecen mejor. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias a todos. Esto concluye nuestra conferencia de prensa. Thank you all. This wraps up our press conference. We would like to go out with a few chants, if Elliot would do us the pleasure, the honor.
Immigrant rights are under attack. So our job lies in fighting back. When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Nuestras comunidades están siendo atacadas. Pelearemos.
Sí.
Pelearemos, pelearemos, pelearemos para que haya justicia. Justicia por las personas afectadas por el abuso de ICE y de Court Civic y de Geo Group en Georgia. ICE fuera de Georgia. Seguiremos en esta lucha hasta que nos oiga el mismo presidente de Estados Unidos. Por eso le decimos a Biden, Biden, escucha, estamos en la lucha. 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 Somos más fuertes, unidos, el uno con el otro. ¿Y qué nos une? Nos une nuestras culturas, nos une la experiencia del inmigrante, nos une el amor. Y unidos jamás seremos vencidos. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido
Jamás será vencido.
el pueblo unido.
Jamás será vencido.
El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
No más detenciones.
No más detenciones, no más deportaciones, no más vigilancia de nuestras comunidades. Es el derecho humano de poder vivir una vida feliz, una vida sin opresión, una vida fuera de los abusos humanos, los abusos que están siendo ejercidos por el dinero que nosotros estamos pagando por los impuestos y que llegan a los bolsillos de Court Civic y ICE. The Stewart of Folkestone, we want them to hear our call. We want you to free them all. Stewart of Folkestone, hear our call. We want you to free them all. Stewart of Folkestone, hear our call.
We want you to free them all.
Stewart of Folkestone, hear our call.
We want you to free them all.
Stewart of Folkestone, hear our call.
We want you to free them all.
Stewart of Folkestone, hear our call.
We want you to free them all.
Stewart of Folkestone, hear our call.
We want you to free them all.
Gracias, pueblo. Thank you, people.
Desde las oficinas de ICE aquí en la ciudad de Atlanta, Georgia, Luis Carlos Arias, Prensa Atlanta.